आज इंटरनेट सिर्फ आधे अधूरे सच और पूरे झूठ में डूबा हुआ है। किसी के पास गहराई से सोचने का या शांति से सुनने का वक्त ही नहीं है। हम एक ऐसा शांत कोना बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। Nope, not your ordinary podcast for entertainment.
Nope.
What hurts Indian sentiments the most? हमारे sentiment कौन सी चीज़ों से सबसे ज़्यादा आहत हो जाते हैं?
To take this question, I think we have to go back to how the British formulated herd sentiment, because they were one of the first to do so. And Thomas Babington Macaulay, he was one of the first. He was a law minister in the East India Company. And he is also the first person who gave us that very famous minute on education in India, and which basically formulated a plan to create a new class of Indian citizens. This was way back in 1835. In 1837, Macaulay comes up with a draft note for the IPC. They do two things there. One is to set up the British themselves as this very, positive, secular-minded, dani, benevolent kind of, rulers. And to say that, we are very interested in creating this kind of a secular space here, and to foment greater, connection between all the communities. And in order to prevent trouble between these communities, we are going to bring out these laws that supposedly prevents hate speech against certain kinds of communities. So they were the first ones to conceive of herd sentiment as particularly religious. कि religion के मामले में वो herd sentiment primordial एक तरीके से लाते हैं. 1837 में ही they conceive of this. And how they set it out is to say that it is intended to prevent any case of intentional, deliberate, malicious hurt against a particular community. So, there are now two aspects to it. One is that they say that it is religious hurt. So, wahi pe hi they say that hurt is primarily of one order or one nature, which is religious, and therefore, for them, they set out religion as that parameter of difference between communities in India, जो कि पहले ऐसा नहीं था. I mean, even if you go back to Akbar and everybody else, the way they conceived of India is very, very different. But the British bring in this very fundamental difference among Indian communities on the basis of religious difference. And they also set themselves as the arbiter of secularism, and कि हम लाएंगे secular ideas and more civilized ideas amongst you, क्योंकि आप तो लड़ते रहते हैं एक दूसरे के बीच में. And they also then say that the third thing that happens is that they say that with this law in 1837, they say that कि intentionality दिखनी चाहिए. तो अब ये जो इंटेंशनलिटी दिखनी चाहिए और उसके बेसिस पे हम कार्रवाई करेंगे, दिस सेट्स अप द एंटायर डिबेट फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ हिस्ट्री एंड इन मॉडर्निटी फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस. हम इसी सवाल पे आज तक जूझ रहे हैं कि हम एक तो इंटेंशनलिटी प्रूव कैसे करेंगे, एंड द अदर थिंग इज दैट हर्ट देन बिकम्स अ कैटेगरी, और हर्ट सेंटिमेंट बिकम्स अ कैटेगरी जो कि दिखनी चाहिए. And it has to be provable, it has to be displayable, it has to be, in other words, recognized by the state. वरना आपका sentiment hurt नहीं हुआ है. तो जब तक वो legitimation नहीं मिलता है state से, तब तक आप चाहे कितना भी hurt हो, कितना भी आपकी wounding हो, कितनी भी आप whatever pain that you might have, it is not a legitimate, recognizable, enforceable kind of a pain, in terms of any legal addressal or redressal. So in that sense, then, what happens in 1837 with Macaulay's conception of religious hurt sentiment is that hurt sentiment now is recognized in India as primarily religious hurt sentiment. बाकी जितना भी आप हर्ट होते रहें उनसे कोई किसी को आपत्ति नहीं है apparently, लेकिन रिलीजन के नाम पे अगर किसी को आपने कुछ बोल दिया तो वो सबसे बड़ी एक चैलेंज, चुनौती या हर्ट बन के सामने आती है. एंड विच वी आर सीइंग इवन नाउ विथ all kinds of hurts being bandied about, चाहे वो कोर्ट्स की बात हो, यूनिवर्सिटीज़ की बात हो, पब्लिक स्पीचेस की बात हो. हर्ट सेंटिमेंट तभी सुनने में आता है या तभी उसका एक it gets a life of its own only when it is in the context of religion. In that sense, I would say that whatever kind of sentimentality we might be talking about, and here we also have to bring into we have to bring into question this Western liberal conception of the nation and justice and law and all of its instruments of power as being objective, unsentimental, rational, and to be governing a rather sentimental population, right? And so this itself sets up a binary between state and people, where people are supposed to be emotional, sentimental, predisposed to all kinds of hurts, and the state, and its instruments of governance are above it, are sovereign, they are unemotional, objective. But we understand that that is not how it works. In fact, we have seen how the state is primarily emotional. The state is most predisposed to getting hurt. And आप state को जैसे ही कुछ criticize करते हैं, सवाल करते हैं, any kind of, any time the state is brought into question or doubt, it brings out its artillery, it brings out its, all of its, armory of power. So we see that this kind of obfuscation or disguising of the ways in which the state's emotionality is normalized and seen as being kind of, it is valid, it is legitimate. Where in fact the state has a monopoly on power, it has a monopoly on deaths, it has a monopoly on being able to, bring anyone to their knees in many, many ways. But that is seen as a very normal working of power, whereas people outraging over perceived, injury or hurt is seen as sentimental. So this is the, space that we are working with, where one kind of sentimentality has been seen as commonsensical or commonsensically invalid, let's say, and where the other kind of sentimentality is seen as normal. It is supposed to be how things, it is the order of things. This commonsensical understanding is what I think we need to be challenging and people, all kinds of people are challenging it in all kinds of spaces. Universities में आप लोग challenge करते हैं इस बात को. This commonsensical understanding of sentimentality, कि सिर्फ लोग ही sentimental है, state sentimental नहीं हो सकता है. State in fact legislates on sentimentality, whereas it is far more complex and complicated than that. The state is absolutely prone to short temper, to bursts of anger, to moodiness, to all kinds of sentimentality and all kinds of actions on the basis of that sentimentality. So coming back to that question, Macaulay introduces this in 1837, and this becomes, just to say how it flows into modernity, this becomes section 153A of the IPC, and then turns into section 295A of the IPC, which we are dealing with today. It was formulated in 1927, almost 100 years after Macaulay conceived of religious hurt sentiment. So, and we are still dealing with the after effects and aftermath of that. And in law, this idea of one kind of sentiment and one kind of religion or religious association that has a greater claim to being hurt.
अगर ये क्वेश्चन मैं आपसे पूछूं जो आज काफ़ी लोग कंफ्यूज्ड है इसको लेके कि क्लियर क्या है हेट स्पीच और क्या है फ्री स्पीच, अगर इसमें ही अगर हम डिस्कस करने लगे तो फ्री स्पीच भी सेंटिमेंट हर्ट कर सकती है, हेट स्पीच कैन कॉज डैमेज, तो इसके अगर आप बाइफिकेशन थोड़ा दे
ये बहुत ही even the most adept of philosophers and thinkers are not exactly they have still not settled this debate between free speech and hate speech क्योंकि दोनों के भी I mean on the one hand free speech in many cases will hurt. Free speech will disturb. It will create a kind of an interruption in commonsensical understandings. तो फ्री स्पीच को आप लेजिस्लेट काफ़ी हद तक नहीं कर सकते या नहीं करना चाहिए, ये बहुत सारे लिबरल थिंकर्स ने ये बोला है. बट ऑन द अदर हैंड जहाँ पे ये हेट स्पीच बन जाता है वहाँ पे हमारे लिए एक नई समस्या आ जाती है कि हेट स्पीच किसको कहा जाए. And there, I think a lot of people like Judith Butler, in her book Excitable Speech, and I mean, even Sara Ahmed in Cultural Politics of Emotion, all of these people have dealt with these questions of how far to take this understanding and idea of hate speech. And then it falls back into the same categories that Macaulay had set up, कि intentionality, कि किसका intention था hurt करने का, किसका intention था hatred, या enmity, incite करने का. So then, I mean, intention is a very, very gray area. I mean, there is no way that you can understand or know the intentionality of any person except for the effect or the affective ways in which it circulates and creates, new consequences and new kinds of regimes of injury, let's say. So hate speech, again, I will say there are a few different kinds of problems with categorizing or classifying hate speech. One, like I said, that, all kinds of speech can be interpreted as hateful or hurtful at whatever given point. Second problem is the problem of identifying intentionality. But also, at something that was, let's say, not hurtful at one point can become hurtful tomorrow, depending on how one wants to instrumentalize it, use it. जैसे कि अम्बेडकर कार्टून के साथ हुआ था कि वो NCERT ने कार्टून पब्लिश किया काफ़ी सालों पहले. उसके बाद जो काफ़ी सारे स्टूडेंट्स ने उस कार्टून को देखा, उस पर चर्चा हुई. And this goes back to the, to 1940s. And in fact, I think this was in 1945.
कार्टून क्या था exactly?
So Ambedkar cartoon was that this was during the Constituent Assembly, debates. And जब नया Constitution बन रहा था, तो उस पे काफ़ी टाइम लग रहा था कि, I mean, because there was a lot of back and forth. पहले draft तैयार हुआ, फिर वो draft public किया गया कि public से आवाज़ें आएंगी, उस पे विचार होगा. And so this took some 4-5 years. It went on that kind of, debate and back and forth on the Constitution, and the kind of each clause was, taken up for debate and questioning and critical analysis. So by the time that, it was actually coming into some kind of shape, a lot of time had passed. So, I mean, there was this cartoon at that time, and very famously, Shankar, I mean, he did this cartoon saying, I mean, it was basically portraying that Ambedkar is sitting on a snail, and he is making this new constitution, drafting the constitution, and he's whipping the snail to for it to move faster. And Nehru is behind Ambedkar and also like with a whip in his hand. So it is obviously very funny at that time, and it was also to show the amount of time that all of these things take, and the impatience and the political impatience, the public impatience with all of these things. But it was published in the NCRT, and I think this was in 2012. And then over the years, it began to get a lot of viewership and and discussion, and especially in a lot of and in this renewed caste context, it became a particularly hurtful cartoon.
Casteist cartoon.
Exactly. और it was reinterpreted as being casteist. जब वो उस time publish हुआ था 1940s में, तब वो casteist उस angle से या उस lens से नहीं देखा गया था, because it was seen more in a sense of the the constitution and the framing of the constitution. But in today's context, it is reinterpreted and reread as a particularly casteist kind of a statement. So at any given point, something that may have been said or published in the public arena and which was not felt as hurtful at that point can become particularly hurtful in the future. And the reverse can also happen. Something that was particularly hurtful in the past may not be seen as being hurtful in the future, right? And that is the usual trajectory that we have experienced, or we thought we would be moving towards, that the future would be a far more liberal space, जहाँ पे अलग-अलग विचारधाराओं के लिए जगह होगी, and and there'll be greater tolerance. But that always does not happen. In fact, we are probably moving towards a new marketplace of outrage over the smallest of things. And then again, it kind of begs the question, who has legitimacy, who is entitled to hurt sentiment? And वहाँ पे जहाँ पे entitlement की बात आ जाती है, क्योंकि अंबेडकर कार्टून में भी I think you can see that there is a new kind of political claim that can be made from within caste, which perhaps that space was not available in the past, in the 1940s.
Nuance probably was not available.
It was not available. And it is only now that with greater discussions on Ambedkarite politics and with greater circulations of caste claims, that you now can reread it in a far more nuanced manner.
जैसे आपने बोला, there's a market for outrage. So do you think there's an outrage economy and social media पे जो अब हिसाब से हो रहा है? मतलब पहले अगर आपको outrage करना है तो आपको कुछ मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, लाइक पेपर में कुछ ऐड देना पड़ता है, कोई गैदरिंग करनी पड़ती है, कोई टीवी चैनल के पीओ बॉक्स नंबर को लेटर लिखना पड़ता है, फिर बहुत सारे लेटर आते हैं तो वो सॉरी बोल देते हैं कि ये नहीं होना चाहिए था. आज बस सोशल मीडिया है.
True, absolutely. Social media is a great driver of all kinds of sentiment. And hurt sentiment is, of course, one of the things that gets you immediate viewership. उसका immediate चलन हो जाता है public में. Social media के माध्यम से तो मैं, I can claim all kinds of hurts. But there is also a downside to it, which is that आप उसको ज़्यादा देर तक नहीं चला सकते हैं. Because it's it's here today and gone tomorrow kind of a phenomenon. So social media, the effects and affects of social media are very transient. And so in that sense, you have to be constantly hurt in order to keep claiming this kind of mediated hurt in the public space and for it to be circulated. And you have to keep manufacturing new kinds of hurt, which we also have been seeing. But again, I would say that after a point, there is going to be exhaustion. There's going to be fatigue, and this fatigue of hurt. And आप एक ही मुद्दे को या एक ही kind of sentiment को कितनी देर तक चला सकते हैं? People still want to be entertained, but they don't want to be entertained with just one kind of feeling. They want a variety, a diversity of feelings to be entertained by. So in that sense, hurt has its circulation, and it does have a shelf life. But then you have to keep manufacturing new kinds of herds, which then comes back to the question कि आप then you have to identify certain bad actors whom you can keep pinning intentionality and malice on, right? And that then requires us to, and the nation itself, to create or imagine itself on the basis of a few fundamental differences. And जहाँ पे इधर के लोग अच्छे citizens हैं, they are good citizens, and उधर के लोग will be bad citizens, right? And then you can keep pinning, you know, all kinds of intentionality on them.
जैसे अभी के टाइम की बात करें तो अभी तो क्लियर है ना, बीजेपी इज अ हिंदू पार्टी, दे आर हिंदू मेजोरिटी पार्टी हु इज इन
Yeah.
पावर. पर ये जो 80% लोग हैं जो सपोजिटली इन पावर है, मेजोरिटी में है, इन लोग बहुत क्यों इनसिक्योर है कोई भी टाइप का क्रिटिक लेने में, कोई भी टाइप का जोक लेने में, कोई भी टाइप का कार्टून लेने में, कास्ट की बात कर दो, डाउरी की बात कर दो, ये लोग दे आर द मेन स्ट्रीम, लाइक दे आर द पीपल इन पावर. सो डू यू थिंक लाइक इन पे बात करने से इनका राइट है हर्ट फील होना, वाइल यू आर द मेजोरिटी, यू आर कंट्रोलिंग एवरीथिंग एंड स्टिल?
You can only stay in power if you can keep, especially now, if you can keep claiming a certain kind of victimhood and propensity to be hurt. And this is, it goes back to what we were talking about last, कि जो you have to keep manufacturing hurt in order to stay relevant and politically relevant, especially in a time when economically, in terms of, you know, future politics and future trajectories, climate change, you know, our futures are in peril, they are precarious. तो ऐसी in times of instability आपको relevant रहने के लिए आपको, you know, you'll have to keep claiming hurt. अब ये actually hurt हो रहे हैं कि नहीं, we don't know, but there is definitely a kind of an, you know, building on a certain emotionality in, you know, political emotion, जो कि आज के ज़माने में बहुत चला हुआ है. That has become the currency through which we claim a certain kind, not only a certain kind of citizenship, but also a certain kind of good citizenship. That we can be hurt and we will be hurt. You know, so that becomes our primary mode of claiming our relevance and our space in today's time. कि मैं तो मुझे तो hurt होगा, and hurt होना भी चाहिए, क्योंकि इतने सारे लोगों ने हम पे इतना अत्याचार किया और हम सहते गए, तो आज हमें ये इस मकाम पे हमें ये बोल देना चाहिए कि हमको काफ़ी चोट पहुंची है हिस्टोरिकली, एंड आज मैं इस जितना भी इंजरी हुआ है उसका मैं या तो बदला लूँगा, या मैं उसके खिलाफ खड़ा हूँगा, या मैं उसके बारे में बात करूँगा, एंड आई विल कीप गेटिंग हर्ट एंड आई विल कीप मेकिंग माई सेल्फ मोर एंड मोर हर्ट every single day. So hurt then becomes the category of claiming citizenship, of claiming legitimacy. And if you are not hurt, then there is a problem. अगर आप hurt नहीं हैं इन सब बातों से, अगर आप औरंगजेब से hurt नहीं हो रहे हैं, तो इसका मतलब आप हमारे साथ नहीं हैं, आप फिर उस तरफ हैं. And this is exactly one of the first victims of this kind of political hurt was Gandhi. And because he insisted on reading the Gita and the Quran and the Bible, public readings, and this hurt the religious feelings of the Hindu Mahasabha at that time. And especially at a time when partition की बात हो रही है, and वहाँ पे भी काफ़ी paradoxical moment है कि एक तरफ तो हिंदू महासभा कह रही है कि हिंदू और मुस्लिम अलग nations ही हैं, but on the other hand they are saying कि गांधी और जिन्ना ने ये करा है, ये बंटवारा किया है नेशन का, and जो कि हमारा, this was our अखंड भारत, and these are the people responsible for dividing this nation. So it is a very paradoxical, contradictory statement that they are making. and which we can actually see in Godse's, writings as well, and his rationale for killing Gandhi. But Gandhi is our first, victim of this kind of persecution, and on the basis of hurt sentiment, and where this idea that there is a certain minority in the nation that needs to be grappled with, that needs to be constantly in that mode of hurting us as Hindus, that was created at that time.
See, but that is that time. So people who did not like Gandhi also, Gandhi was a part of their life. If they switched on the radio, he was there. If they turned the newspaper, he was there. So it's understandable that if you have a disposition towards a person like Gandhi, you will develop those feelings, and those feelings maybe 5%, 10% of the country may have felt like that. अब इस पे आते हैं, आज तो हम मॉडर्न टाइम में हैं. मेरे से आप एक बार हर्ट हो गए, दूसरे बार हर्ट हो गए, टीएम कृष्णा से एक बार हर्ट हो गए, दूसरे बार हर्ट हो गए, प्रकाश राज से एक बार हर्ट हो गए, दूसरे बार. Why do you consent every time to go through my work while you know 10 on 10 you will be hurt with something I say? So you are consenting to be hurt, then you are shouting ke I'm hurt, and then you are asking laws to be wrapped around that your hurt sentiment.
Absolutely.
And an action be taken while you are consenting to all of this.
Because, and this is, like I said, one of the reasons is that one has to claim and create this category of the hurt citizen who is the good citizen. A good citizen is a hurt citizen, right? So, and a bad citizen is a tolerant citizen, especially now. I'm really simplifying it, but this is how it is working right now. So, the politics of the good and bad citizen is also that कि आप कुछ चीज़ों पे hurt होते हो और कुछ चीज़ों पे नहीं hurt होते हो. It is not that they are getting hurt by the. It's not that a lot of people are getting hurt by the speeches of Kapil Sharma or Kapil Mishra, but a lot of people will get hurt, or not a lot of people are getting hurt by the recent Karnataka High Court, statement that they passed this, statement saying that मस्जिद के अंदर आप जय श्री राम बोल दो, उससे किसी का सेंटिमेंट हर्ट नहीं होता है. लेकिन आपको ये पता है कि ऑपोजिट अगर आप करोगे तो बड़ी समस्या हो जाएगी. तो लेकिन ये जो एक सबटरेनियन अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि कुछ चीज़ें हर्टफुल आप बना सकते हैं और कुछ चीज़ें आप नज़रअंदाज कर सकते हैं, या कुछ चीज़ें आपको इतनी परेशान नहीं करती हैं. ये तो हमारा common sense, going back to that commonsensical logic, right? That we have arrived at this moment in Indian politics when we are very clever and canny in understanding that there are certain kinds of valid claims, and hurt is that one category by which you can prove your nationalism, and it is the easiest way to prove your nationalism, in fact, to claim hurt sentiment. अगर आपने किसी और तरीके से नेशनलिज्म अपना डिक्लेयर कर दिया तो वो चलेगा ही नहीं. वो इट विल नॉट इवन गेट एनी ट्रैक्शन. अगर आपने देशभक्ति के गाने गा दिए या कुछ भी कर दिया, उससे दैट हैज एब्सोल्युटली नो करेंसी टुडे. व्हाट इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी डन इज टू keep on addressing this question of difference and the other. To keep bringing the other in, the other for us today has absolutely become the Muslim mother, right? So to keep bringing back the Muslim question and to keep creating a kind of nationalism that will constantly, make this kind of outsider versus insider distinction, and then proceed on that basis in order to achieve greater effects. And what are these greater effects? The larger use of JCBs, to just use a euphemism, कि जाके किसी के भी घर तोड़ सकते हैं आप, किसी की भी हिस्ट्री आप फ्लैटन कर सकते हैं. अगर वो हमारे लोग नहीं हैं तो आप आप उनके लैंड्स ले सकते हैं, आप उनकी प्रॉपर्टीज़ को जब्त कर सकते हैं, आप आप उसको लॉ को चेंज कर सकते हैं, आप कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. आप उनके खिलाफ नारे भी लगा सकते हैं, आप उनको पाकिस्तान बुला सकते हैं, लेकिन कोई उसके बारे में कोई कुछ नहीं बोलेगा। लेकिन अगर उन वहाँ से अगर सिटीजनशिप की बात पे फॉर इंस्टेंस एक क्लेम आता है कि हम भी यहाँ के सिटीजन्स हैं, हमको भी हम कागज़ नहीं दिखाएंगे, तो ये हमारे तरफ से एक हमारे लिए एक बड़ा एक हर्टफुल स्टेटमेंट बन जाता है कि वो कागज़ कैसे नहीं दिखाएंगे, सब याद रखा जाएगा। तो क्यों याद रखेंगे आप? आपको हम जेल में डाल देंगे, आप भूल जाएंगे सब कुछ।
तो इसमें एक फॉल्ट लाइन भी आती है जहाँ पे इंटेंट की बात हुई, लॉ की बात हुई, तो काफ़ी लोग ये कहते हैं कि जो नुपुर शर्मा ने बोला टीवी चैनल पे वो फ्री स्पीच नहीं है क्या, उसको क्यों नहीं सपोर्ट करते आप? तो मेरा तो पर्सनल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू यही था कि उसने बोला ही था कि टू इन्फ्लिक्ट वायलेंस, तो इंटेंट तो वहाँ दिख रहा है।
एग्जैक्टली
तुम टीवी पे जो कर रहे हो उसके बाद यू हैव द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ सीइंग कि भैया ये टाइप की जो बातें लोगों ने की है उनके साथ क्या हुआ है।
एग्जैक्टली
जब तुम ये नेशनल टीवी पे खुद चूज करते हो करने का, तो कोई बंदा जो सामने बैठा है वो हमेशा कंसेंट नहीं दे रहा है।
there is deliberate provocation, as we have seen, and there is dog whistling of all kinds. You have seen Arnab Goswami, people from from the likes of Arnab Goswami to Nupur Sharma to Kapil Mishra to many others who have made all kinds of statements, right? And especially during CNRC हमने ये देखा है कि
Which has had an impact.
which has had an impact. It has had a mobilizing impact. It has had a violent impact. And the people who have stood against it, they have suffered the brunt of all of that violence, and also the state violence, where they have been subject to all kinds of scrutiny, surveillance, imprisonment, and so on and so forth. And आज के दौर पे मतलब आज के डेट पे भी काफ़ी लोग अभी भी अंदर ही हैं, and we know all the names, and these are people who have stood up against violence. These are people who have really critiqued the state, who have questioned the logic and legitimacy of citizenship bills and many other procedures that the state is interested in bringing out at this time. Lekin their speech is seen as excitable, intentionally hurting speech, whereas none of this is even counted as violence. वो तो आज there is now some kind of, I mean, why Kapil Mishra is coming up is because now the Delhi High Court is saying that okay, maybe what he said needs to be looked at. जबकि पुलिस ने अभी तक FIR lodge नहीं की है उसके खिलाफ. So there is a very concerted effort to
This imbalance in
absolutely to maintain it and to create this commonsensical and to maintain this commonsensical understanding that there is a good citizen who, no matter what they say and how they act, they will be legitimate, valid citizens of the state. And there are bad citizens who, no matter how patriotic or how accomplished they are or how much they might have achieved, although nobody needs to do that in order to be a citizen of a country, but no matter how much they might have been upstanding citizens, they just need to be on the other side of that divide. And then anything that they say, so any speech that comes from the minority then, this is what we are seeing, that the minority articulation itself is a problem. उस तरफ से कुछ भी आए, that will be seen as being hurtful. So then we have to think कि ये what is hurt then? And what is the how is it being judged? Then we are saying that only one kind of demographic in this country or one kind of people, community
will have the
will have not only the power to say anything at all, will have a voice, but even among them, anything that they say is going to be valid, recognized, and legitimate. From the minority, no matter how valid those questions are or that articulation is, it is going to be devalued, it is going to be completely seen as illegitimate speech. And then we have a growing problem that anyone who speaks from the minority or for the minority, then becomes a class of citizen that is perennially in doubt for the state, which is always potentially criminal for the state. कि आप एक minority को फिर आप एक criminal lens से ही देख पा रहे हैं, and जो भी minority के लिए बोलता है, उनके लिए आवाज़ उठाता है या उनके लिए advocate करता है, then everybody is going to be suspect. So they have actually created, or we are seeing the creation of two kinds of people. One who will never be in doubt and who will perennially be good, no matter how, how dangerous they might be. And another class of citizen who will forever be potentially criminal, who will potentially be transgressive. And तो उनको आप अभी slowly we are seeing, of course, the growing divisions between these kinds of classes of people, but we are also seeing the building of detention centers. We are also seeing the, all of these people being sent to prison, so
properties being destroyed.
properties being destroyed. कि आपने कुछ भी एक चीज़ बोल दी public में, so you're seeing properties being destroyed, you're seeing rigorous imprisonment, you're seeing solitary confinement, you're seeing being held without trial for 5 years, and with the state offering no guarantees for anything at all. So we're seeing this kind of a gradual transformation of what used to be our understanding of the Indian public into a very graded kind of a public. जो अम्बेडकर ने बात कही थी graded inequality, but we are seeing the expansion of that graded inequality currently in these political terms, and where one grade of people with a certain kind of state ranking will always be above suspicion, and another grade of people will forever be surveilled, will forever be in suspicion, and potentially imprisoned at any point. So then you can have all kinds of surveillance mechanisms. आप कुछ भी ला सकते हैं, new kinds of AI systems to keep track, and ये बहुत सारे governments across the world कर रहे हैं अब, they're bringing in AI models to predict behavior and to scan faces. So ये सब it will be done to identify at the outset
threat to the government.
who can be a threat, and the threat then is always interpretative. It's always a kind of a hermeneutical idea of threat कि, and that category will shift in the future कि आज उसको इन लोगों से भर देते हैं, dissident हैं, communist हैं, जो भी हैं, मुसलमान हैं, जो भी हैं, कल वो change हो सकता है. अब जैसे war on terror बहुत ही brilliant term था जो बुश लाए थे कि आप terrorist नहीं, आप war on terror declare कर दीजिए. So then you can keep filling it with new faces and new actors, and as need be, and that it keeps growing, it keeps changing. It is a very plastic, fluid term, and it completely works at all times for past, present, future. So you can keep changing the identity of terror. And so in today's times, the most terrifying people are university professors, stand-up comedians, those who speak, against power, against, who ask questions, and people, of course, of a particular religious affiliation, जो कि बहुत पहले partition के ज़माने से चलता आ रहा है और ख़त्म होने का कोई दिख नहीं रहा है कि there'll be any chance of that happening soon, because that's a very charged and continually valid rupture.
अभी एक और चीज़ जो हमारे सोसाइटी में चल रही है, and probably the last question I have for you is the outrage that people are having towards linguistic imperialism बोलो या pride, कहाँ पे pride है, कहाँ imperialism है, कहाँ हिंदी थोपने के लिए outrage हो रहा है, कहाँ हिंदी को रोकने के लिए outrage हो रहा है. तो ये outrage तो genuine लगता है, यहाँ से भी आ रहा है. So उसमें अगर आप कुछ बता पाए कि क्या देखती हैं आप?
In terms of language, we have had a lot of hurt, historic hurt to do with language imposition, जो कि हमने we have seen during the partition, I mean East Pakistan के time पे हमने देखा था, and 1971 में हमने देखा है, उसके बाद भी चलता आया है, and especially in the context of regional affiliations, I will say that it is far more pertinent than ever, because this again goes back to Golwalkar's idea of Hindu, Hindi, Hindustan, right? And this imposition of one culture, which is absolutely in opposition to that idea of syncretism, of secularism, of democratic, diverse but united kind of a nation. It is an absolute opposition जो आज हम अब सुन रहे हैं, one nation, one election, one language, one whatever. It goes back to Golwalkar's idea and understanding of how the new Indian nation should be, and again that very primordial understanding of India not as this modern secular republic, but India as Bharat and Akhand Bharat, and where everyone has to submit to this one hegemonic dominant identity. तो उसके चलते अगर in terms of religious identity अगर आप हिंदू as ballot category रखना चाहते हैं, so every other category can only, and वो तो आप खुलेआम कहते हैं कि आप इस देश में तभी रह सकते हैं जब आप सेकेंडरी स्टेटस लेके रहें, कि आप सेकेंड क्लास सिटीजन बन के रहें. You cannot, as any other non-Hindu identity, you cannot have equal status. So it is very clear, even from the 1930s, that the idea of equality is hurtful to the Hindu Mahasabha. The idea of people of all kinds of identities living together in a democratic republic, and with equality is a hurtful concept.
So this oneness is basically not a unifying factor in any way. It is just
Absolutely
basically
not.
It's like
It is just a kind of
for outrage.
It is, and it has potential for all kinds of outrage for the foreseeable future. So if you are saying that you can only live in this nation as second-class citizen if you're a non-Hindu, and as second-class citizen now that they are slowly saying
Not a Hindi speaker.
not as a non-Hindi speaker, then we are entering a new phase where this idea of Hindustan or Bharat, which they have changed to Bharat now, is going to be a very small minority of people who will decide the futures and lives of everybody else. As somebody who doesn't subscribe to that, or who cannot, let's say, speak the language, or who will not speak the language, either literally or metaphorically, you will forever be treated with suspicion, condescension, and as an outsider. Now that being an outsider can either take the form of being a cultural outsider, or they can do it in actual physical ways with all these citizenship, tests and these new demands to prove one's citizenship with either papers or with some kind of cultural appropriation, whatever, co-option, whatever that you can submit to. So now we have already entered in 2019, we have entered a new phase in Indian politics, जहाँ पे हमने already ये मान लिया कि सिटीजनशिप को प्रूव करना पड़ेगा। तो वहीं से एक नई हिस्टोरिक लाइन खिंच जाती है कि अब से it is not taken to be an accepted truth that आप इस देश के हैं तो आप इस देश के हैं. I mean, there is no question about it. And because everything that we were saying was on the basis of that agreement, that contract that we all had with each other. And then you see that from 2019 onwards, हम क्या कर रहे हैं? हम preamble, we are reading out the preamble. हम constitution पे बात कर रहे हैं. हम पहले जहाँ पे we used to talk in more nuanced and complicated ways about citizenship or about being part of India in any which way or about nations and nationalism. अब वो सब छोड़ के हम बहुत ही बेसिक चीज़ों पे बात कर रहे हैं कि अपना citizenship proof करना पड़ेगा. अब खुद को we have to keep on giving disclaimers even in the classroom. If I'm teaching something on nations and nationalism, then I have to give disclaimers that this is not meant to hurt the sentiment of any particular group. I have to now give trigger warnings even when I'm teaching texts like Draupadi by Mahashweta Devi. So now we have entered a new phase culturally and politically where we have accepted that it is no longer a given that our belonging is a stated, guaranteed thing. We no longer belong as a guaranteed thing. We have to prove our belonging, and now we have to possibly choose our belonging if that choice is available to us at all. And the new rules of nationalism, of nation, of citizenship, all of this is now being channelized through the affectivity of hurt sentiment. लेकिन आगे जाके further tests of loyalty आएंगे, further there'll be further outrage on other things as well, जो कि we are moving towards those kinds of futures. And जहाँ पे अगर आपने, and we have already started to see this, अगर आपने demonetization पे कुछ बोल दिया तो आप urban Naxal है. अगर आपने if you question the finance minister's wisdom, then you are टुकड़े gang or whatever. I mean, अगर आपने economic policy पे, आपने cultural policy पे, अगर आपने उनके किसी भी national policy पे कुछ भी सवाल खड़े किए, even asking for just clarification, then you are seen to be hurting sentiments. And in that sense, then I will say that hurting sentiments then is something that we have to consciously adopt as part of our vocabulary and strategy, because criticality can only be achieved through hurting sentiments. And some sentiments will get hurt, no matter what you do. But whether that will be seen as a legitimate form of hurt sentiment or not, that remains to be seen.
Cool. Thank you so much, Hari. Had a
Thank
great
you.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
हाँ